Greetings, everyone. This is Gwen Allen Carston. I am the Executive Director for Kbac, Kent Black Action Commission, and we're located in the city of Kent, Washington. Today we're going to be hosting our candidates in this year's general election from the 33rd District and the 47th District. First of all, we want to congratulate all of those who have moved forward to this position in the general election. It says a lot about them and their campaigns and their ability to become successful. We're hoping that their excitement and their out meeting folks and talking to people about what's going on will continue to represent them whether they are in a seat or not. Our organization is focused on presenting a virtual candidates forum this year. We have done this in the past, and we were very successful at it, and we hope that we will have the same sort of success and support. We'd like to make sure that everyone gets to hear from our candidates, and sometimes everyone cannot participate in the physical candidates forum, but by doing this virtually, folks are able to sit at home, watch the presentation, and enjoy that time of their questions being answered or not, and then they can discuss it before they make their decisions. So with the general election being held on November 8th, we feel that today we can have time to present the candidates as they speak and see what they have to say. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this time together. It's a time of learning, a time of understanding, and a time of knowing what your place is in this election and for the city of Kent. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy this presentation. I know I will. Have a great day.
Greetings. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Kent Black Action Commission Virtual Candidate Forum 2022. On behalf of Kbac, we thank you for your participation and for tuning in to this event. Our goal for this forum is to provide you, the voter, access to the candidates vying for your vote to become your elected representative for the 33rd and the 47th Washington State Legislative Districts. It's important for people to realize that to influence legislative policies at the federal level, you must begin at the local and state levels. Again, I thank each of you for being here. My name is Charles Carston. I am the Operations Manager and Senior Advisor to the Executive Director, Gwen Allen Carston of Kbac. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm also the husband of the Executive Director of Kbac. Kbac has, since the beginning in 2011, has been providing the local community with information and a voice to share the concerns to our local and state elected officials. Recently, one of those voices, a beloved member of Kbac, Charmaine Boston, lost her battle with cancer. Charmaine, as the Kbac community liaison, was present at and supportive of all Kbac events. Charmaine supported events sponsored by Glover Empowerment Mentoring. Charmaine also supported community events sponsored by Althea's Louisiana Cajun Store. Charmaine also worked at the Showwear Center in the Food Services Department. We are all saddened by her passing, but we'll continue to work with her spirit in our hearts and in our involvement in the future of the city of Kent and Kbac. Now I will introduce our first candidate, and this is Karen KAISER, running for Senate for the 33rd Legislative District. And at this time, I will turn the mic over to Ms. KAISER for her opening statement.
Thank you, Charles. And I am Senator Karen KAISER, and I want to thank all of the participants of Kbac. I'm sorry, in a way, to be a virtual presence this year, but we've had these problems with this pandemic. In years past, we were able to meet in person, and I really enjoyed being able to interact, talk, have questions, answer questions, and hear back from people. So if you have any questions or comments about what I say today, I want you to reach out and tell me what you think. And I'm sure that Gwen and all the people at Kbac can give you my communications addresses, email as well as telephone. So I have been serving in the state Senate for a while, long enough to have been elected as president pro tem of the state Senate, which is a really wonderful position. I fill in for the lieutenant governor when the lieutenant governor isn't able to preside at the Senate. And it's a bipartisan vote. You have to be elected by both parties and all members in order to serve. So it's wonderful, really, to have that vote of confidence. In the Senate, I also serve as chair of the Labor, Commerce, and Tribal Affairs Committee, and on the Rules Committee as vice chair, on the Ways and Means Committee, and on the Health Care Committee. I'm pretty busy, but I really love the job.
All right, thank you very much. And now we will begin with question 1. And that question is, President Biden's recent decision to address the legal stance on cannabis by overhauling the United States policy on cannabis and pardoning thousands of people, approximately 6,500, who have received in the past federal offenses for possession of marijuana, simple possession, and initiating a review of how cannabis is classified as a Schedule I drug like meth, cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, or LSD. The question is, do you agree or disagree with the president's actions? Why or why not?
I absolutely agree with the president's action and applaud it. It's about time, in fact. In this state, we have pretty much already taken those steps in terms of vacating convictions for simple possession of cannabis. And we have also, as you know, had the voters support initiatives to legalize cannabis sales, both first medical cannabis and then recreational cannabis. So we have a very well-regulated and very thriving cannabis industry now in our state. But we do have a cannabis problem still, and that is that when the licenses were distributed, they were not done equitably. We had a lot of African-American license holders who were providing medical cannabis, but they did not win licenses to provide recreational cannabis. And that is an inequity that needs to be addressed and remedied. I'm working with many different partners and community voices on how we can go about getting real equity in the licenses for cannabis. It's quite a business. It's not an easy business by a long shot, but it's a good business, and we've had great success in our state with it.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for question number 2. Redistricting is the process of drawing the lines of districts from which public officials are elected. When it's conducted fairly, it accurately reflects population changes and racial diversity, and is used by legislators to equitably allocate a representation in Congress and state legislatures. What are your thoughts about redistricting and or gerrymandering in Washington state as a way to address our population growth and diversity?
Thank you for that question. It's a controversial question in the sense that in many, many states, especially in what you would call a red state, there's been very obvious political redistricting that cuts out the voice of too many communities. In our state, we have a citizens commission that actually draws the redistricting lines, so it's not quite so partisan, but it's still not entirely, in my opinion, perfect. I love my district, and I'm not complaining about the 33rd district, but I think we should have had a district in eastern Washington around the Yakima area that would have more accurately reflected the voice of our Latina and Latino populations over there, because it just doesn't exist right now. In fact, the city of Yakima had a lawsuit, I believe it was by the ACLU some years ago, on their city council, which had never elected a Latino or Latina commission member on their city council. And it was all at-large voting in that city. And the city was sued by the ACLU and negotiated an agreement to have a district-by-district election in the city. And now they do have better representation on their city council. So it's a difficulty to draw new lines because populations move and change, and we need to change with it. But with a Citizens Commission and with a lot of civic action and involvement, I think we can do a good job.
Okay, thank you for that. Question number 3. In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on Roe versus Wade recognized the right to an abortion, citing the U.S. Constitution's guarantee of personal liberty under the 14th Amendment. On June 24, 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled by a count of 6-3 to uphold a Mississippi abortion ban that was challenged in the case of Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, and overturned the landmark case of Roe versus Wade, ruling on a 5-4 vote, ending nearly 50 years of federally protected abortion rights and greatly diminished the range of reproductive choice for American women. Please share with us your stance on the Supreme Court's decision, and should this be the end of discourse on such an extremely charged matter in this country?
Well, I completely disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling on Roe v. Wade. In my opinion, the Supreme Court should not be taking away people's rights. And that's what they did. They took away people's rights when they said, you may not decide for yourself on your reproductive health care. And I just think that is fundamentally wrong for the Supreme Court to do that. But nevertheless, that's what they did. So we have our own state constitution. We have our own state laws. And I can work on those because I'm a state senator. So I have proposed that we have a state constitution, that amendment that will guarantee abortion, reproductive care, and birth control access for all. And I'm not sure that we can get it through our legislature because you need a 2/3 majority to pass a constitutional amendment, but I think the question needs to be posed. Secondly, because I do chair the Labor and Commerce Committee, I am looking at providing some kind of indemnification for companies that provide abortion services for their employees in those states where abortion is now outlawed. And so we have a lot of companies with employees in Mississippi or Alabama or Georgia or wherever abortion's being outlawed, and those employees currently are under the thumb of the state. But if their employer says, if you want, we will pay your way back to headquarters here in Washington State, and we will pay for time off, and we will pay for the procedure and give you those benefits. I want them to be able to feel free to do that without the fear of retaliation from those governors in those states that seem to like to retaliate. And I don't believe they should retaliate, but I want to make sure if companies make those benefits available to their employees, they do not have any risk of retaliation. So that's another piece of legislation I'm looking at for the 2023 session. And I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you very much. And now that leads us to your 90-second closing statement.
Well, I just mentioned one of the issues I'm working on for the 2023 session. And I'm always looking forward and listening to folks in our community about issues that are of concern to them. And One of the big concerns I've heard about and I'm working on is retail theft. There's been quite a marked increase in organized crime in retail theft in that world. And we need, I believe, to put that under the eyeglass and look at what we can do to interfere with the system of being able to have organized theft and then to have the products that are stolen sold online on eBay or Amazon or whatever. There was a case last year of a individual in Auburn who had more than $2 million in products in a warehouse that he was reselling on online platforms. He was arrested and convicted, but many of those people are not being convicted or even found at this point. So we're having a work session to look into all of the aspects of retail theft that's really causing a lot of loss. And it's not just shrinkage anymore, it's big loss in a lot of the stores where these retail thefts are organized. I'm also looking at legislation to deal with the issue of female genital mutilation. And this was brought to me by a student who came from Africa and had suffered FGM. And there are several states, I believe 13 states, that have taken action on this, and I'm working with our communities to communicate with them about the possibilities that we can, in our state, also protect women from this mutilation. And I think we can hopefully make some progress on that bill as well. Thank you again for having this forum and being able to have an opportunity to speak to you. I wish you could be with us to talk back and tell me what you think. But please feel free to communicate at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for being here.
Thank you,
We appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thanks, Gwen.
Yes, we now have Bill Boyce from the Kent City Council. He's also the council president, and he will now give us a 90-second opening statement.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. First of all, I want to say thank Kbac. I really appreciate all the hard work you guys do. I've been knowing Gwen for a long time when she started this organization, and really have been steadfast to continue to grow this organization. So kudos to Kbac, and as well as you, Gwen. Also, Charmaine, I can see her pretty smile as I speak up here, and what a blessing she had been to all of us. So definitely going to miss her pretty smile, and her spirit is with us. With that said, my name is Bill Boyce. I'm running for Senate for the 47th District. For me, I consider myself a public servant. That's what I do. People say politician. I feel like I'm a public servant. I grew up in the state of North Carolina. Right after school, I decided to join the military. I was an Airborne Ranger paratrooper stationed on Fort Lewis, and once I got in the military, I decided to stay. I work for the Boeing Company. I'm an HR professional, been there for over 34 years. I've been married to my wife, Debbie, for 36 years. We got 5 beautiful kids, all adults, now living in the Kent area. 6 grandkids, which really just kind of lights up my heart every day, just being able to be a part of their life and watch them grow up. As Charles said, I am the president of the Kent City Council. Been on the Kent City Council now for approximately 12 years. I also serve on the Kent School Board, been on the school board for quite some time. Board of Trustees for Harborview, and also I'm a YMCA board member. For me, really, this campaign is really about crime and housing and taxes, and that's what I'd like to be able to talk about as we go through this process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. The first question we have for you today is President Biden's recent decision to address the legal stance on cannabis by overhauling the United States policy on cannabis and pardoning thousands of people, approximately 6,500, who have received federal sentences for simple marijuana possession, and initiating a review of how marijuana cannabis is classified as a Schedule I drug. Do you agree or disagree with the president's actions? Why or why not?
Absolute agree, totally agree with President Biden's decision. To pardon simple marijuana changes, this is something that has already happened here in the state of Washington, called Senate Bill 5605. And I would like to see Olympia really take action on the real issue that we are facing with, and that is fentanyl, right? Which is the leading cause of overdose in Washington. Washington is second highest in death due to overdose. And this country, I am already ready to see the statistic lower by really focusing on that. So totally agree with what President Biden done. We really need to focus on the meth, and the fentanyl is what really killing our kids, and we need to get control of that. And that's what I'd like to see as I move forward in the Senate. What can we do to really bring that under control, hold people accountable that bringing this stuff into our states and killing our kids? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Question number 2. Redistricting is the process for drawing the lines of districts from which public officials are elected. When it's conducted fairly, it accurately reflects population changes and racial diversity, and is used by legislators to equitably allocate representation in Congress and state legislatures. What are your thoughts about this process or gerrymandering in Washington state as a way to address our population growth and diversity? And what do you know about the process it takes to accomplish this fairly and equitably?
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate the question. Redistricting, right? This year redistricting process raised a lot of questions, right, regarding the equality and fairness that took place during this process. There was concern that the commission didn't finish the process, right, in time, and that they waited. They violate the state closure law, and there are also current challenges, especially in Eastern Washington District 14, including where there are groups of challenges that is going on right now as we speak. I think we need to take a look at the redistricting process and see what we can to improve on it. We can look at the appointment process and the deadline process to make sure that we have enough time to get the process done. We want to make sure that people have input into the process and understand the process. Because right now, based on everything that's going on, there's a lot of questions, a lot of concern about the fairness of it. So based on that alone, I would totally agree that we really need to kind of take a look at it and maybe revamp it and make sure that people understand what's going on. And people who are less fortunate, we want to make sure that they have a voice in the process and don't get voted out by some of the laws and stuff that have been put in place. So everybody need to be included in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, question number 3. In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on Roe versus Wade recognized the right to an abortion, citing the U.S. Constitution's guarantee of personal liberty under the 14th Amendment. On June 24th, 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled by a count of 63 to uphold a Mississippi abortion ban that was challenged in the case of Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, and overturned the landmark case of Roe versus Wade, ruling on a 5-4 vote, ending nearly 50 years of federally protected abortion rights and greatly diminished the range of reproductive choice for American women. Please share with us your stance on the Supreme Court's decision, and should this be the end of discourse on such an extremely charged matter in this country?
Thanks again, Charles. Good question. When it comes to decision on Roe versus Wade, I believe in representing what the people in my district have voted for, which is to keep the abortion legal. Okay, I would not vote against the people in my community like others have. While in Olympia, I will bring up issues for the accessible health care, especially for the vulnerable population, such as the low-income family, elders, and vets. So I think that's what we really need to be focusing on, really, to making sure that the people who don't have access to or is birth control and those type of things, we want to make sure they have access to those so they can get through the process.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Now it's time for your closing statement.
Once again, outstanding question, Charles. Thank you so much for being here. I once again thanks Kbac. Like I said earlier, you guys just a phenomenal organization, and keep doing what you're doing and raising the flag and bringing issues up, because Miss Gwen, she don't hesitate to bring issues up where it's within our city. Soon she will do the same thing. Me as a senator, she'll come to me and when issues come about, and I definitely look forward to our conversation. Really, what this all about, what got me going is we have a serious problem with crime, and you people who own business, you probably can relate to that, where you have your business continue, but people break in and they steal stuff, and there's no accountability. We need to hold people accountable. We have to hold them accountable, and I want our small business especially be able to, have their store open and not have people walk in and just take stuff. And then when you call the police, they don't respond because, we have a shortage of police these days. So that will be a number one issue for me, is making sure that we hold people accountable for crime. The other one is housing, and I will add that to the homelessness, right? We have to find a way to get our homeless people off the street. And the way we do that is, number one, right now you really can't go and arrest a homeless person or bring them off the street unless you have reason. My goal is to get them off the street, put them in a program where there's addiction, and take care of their mental healthness, right? And once you do that, put them into a home and let them be productive member of society. So those will be the things I'll be focusing on. Thank you very much.
All right.